Now, if you are looking for a top quality knife, you want to look for a diamond blade knife. That friction forged thing they're doing makes an incredibly sharp edge that keeps its sharpness 10 times longer than the next best blade tested. And believe me, they didn't just pick the worst blade in the business to test against. They tested against more than a dozen. And this thing just keeps coming out the winner. And it's because of the friction forging. Incredibly intense pressures and temperatures that do that. But you're thinking, that is an expensive knife. And there's no doubt diamond blade knives are top of the line and expensive. I'm thinking, if you're going to buy a knife like that with that kind of edge sharpness retention, why not get it in a convenient pocket knife that you're always going to have? Rather than a specialty knife that you might use once or twice a year, this little guy is riding in your pocket and you're going to be using it day after day for all sorts of chores. Why not use a pocket knife that keeps its edge? Diamond Blade Fury. This is the one that I would recommend. Now, I want to start off with our Africa question. This is from one of our patrons, Steve, and he starts off by saying, Ron, I have been listening to your podcast and watching your videos, first YouTube and now on Patreon, for several years. And long before that, I found that I was reading your magazine articles going clear back to the late 1970s. You've been along for the ride, Steve. So, of course, I greatly appreciate the wisdom born of your many years of experience. With that in mind, because I am saving up to book a hunt for Namibia Plains game in 2027, I have two questions for you. Thanks for answering those. Cheers to Betsy, by the way.
Yay.
Betsy's all fired up, Steve. Now he says, I'm sorry in advance, but these questions are a bit long-winded, so I might have to kind of skip through some parts here, but let's just see where this is going. I mentioned 3 hunting units in Namibia. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, check those out. There are lots of great outfitters over there. I'm always talking about Immenhof Safaris. I've hunted with them many, many times, but also Dirk Bod and Jamie Trout and who else have we mentioned here?
David Miller.
David Miller.
I don't think, how do you pronounce his name? David,
well, we pronounce it David Miller. They would pronounce it David Muller.
Well, we're going with him anyway.
Yeah, and he's
a month.
Yeah, but he's working with Werner von Seidlitz at Immenhof. They kind of teamed up on this one, so I think Werner's going to be doing more and more of this. I think we're looking at potential retirement for David. He's been at it for a long, long time, and he has got some great hunts for buffalo up into Caprivi, but also plains game on his ranch, as well as what they do on Immenhof on the ranches that they hunt. And that's a big part of it, and that's the reason why the prices are relatively low in Namibia, as well as South Africa, is that these ranchers now make more money off of wildlife than they ever did off of their domestic cattle. So that's why it's thriving, and wildlife populations are higher than they have been in decades. Now, let's see what the second question is, hidden costs. This is the one I wanted to address. Steve is worried about the hidden costs associated with going to Africa, and he lists all kinds of possibilities like customs fees and the police and import fees on the rifles and the ammo, and on it goes. And, well, he suggests that I write a blog on this stuff, guys, and I have done that in the past, but that may have been enough years ago that I need to update it. But just to get started, go to Ron Spomer Outdoors and search for African safaris and maybe costs or something like that, and you'll find, several blogs that I've done on that. That will help, but I may be looking at doing a really in-depth one to complete answering all of his questions. But basically, let's just go over it quickly here. If you book a hunt, you're going to generally work with a PH who can tell you a lot of this stuff. He's going to say, no, you need to fly into this airport, Joburg, that's the kind of the capital, but maybe Cape Town. And then I'll pick you up. Boy, problem solved. Or now you've got to get out to my place or a little closer to catch an in-flight flight to Port Elizabeth or East London or some other country, Kimberley, someplace within the country that's closer to his operation, and then he'll pick you up, that kind of a thing. So you can then get your ticket prices for that stuff. He will also say, look, you got to bring a rifle in. You're going to have to get this registration ahead of time thing. Here's the papers from the government. Fill those things out. Send them in. Going to need to send in your passport number. Make sure you have 6 pages available open on your passport.
I didn't have 6 pages.
Knew that was coming.
And I was left behind.
Yeah, one of our Africa trips, Betsy just waltzed right in there, tried to get on the plane, and they wouldn't let her on the flight. I mean, she was literally at the desk, ready to get through the door and get onto the plane, and they looked at her passport and said, you don't have enough pages open so they can stamp them, so you can't go. Oh my God, was she hot. Well, don't do that, guys. Get all this stuff done ahead of time. Now, as I said, the outfitter can provide you with most of this information, but some of it's a little bit out of their purview. And there you need to work with the State Department over here, or, and this is really a simple way to do it, Betsy and I do this all the time. We go to a travel agency that specializes in this kind of thing. Yeah, it's going to cost you about, what is it now, $300, hon?
Per person,
Yep,
I
per
believe.
person. Okay.
Yes, and it's well worth it. Gracie Travel.
Yeah, Gracie Travel, we've been dealing with them for years and years. We tried a couple of other ones, and they were okay, but Gracie's always come through for us. And what they do is answer all these questions for you. What all these extra costs going to be? And they're going to say, listen, and if you're going into, say, Namibia now, they've got a new visa requirement. You need to fill this thing out ahead of time, blah, blah, blah. Or you're going to have to do it at the airport when you get there, and it'll take another half hour to an hour or something like that. All those details, they will tell you. But they'll also have someone there at the airport in Joburg to meet you, to take you to the police department and get your gun. And then they're going to say, you're going to need $100, whatever the typical gun fee for importing it is. So you'll have that ready ahead of time. They will tell you, our man will pick you up, take you to the police, get your rifles, take you to wherever you want to stay for the night, or take you to your next flight. Betsy and I generally get there around 6 to 7 in the evening, so we stay overnight at a local hotel. There's several good ones there, but the one we like is right connected to the airport. Makes it dead simple and safe. You don't have to travel through Joburg in the dark. And we stay at the City Lodge. And then in the morning, our man from Gracie, Bruce, is there to meet us and take us down and through the mess that is in international travel, going to Namibia or Zambia or someplace, or to another town in South Africa. So that's going to cost you. You're going to have that hotel. They have a great breakfast there. That's included, though, and that's almost worth the whole fee. They've got more food than you know what to do with in a week. So, those things can all be done and handled for you and explained to you by somebody from Gracie Travel. Now, there may be a few little things in country, and that is, again, where your PH comes in. So what I would do, start with Gracie Travel and say, listen, I'm going on a hunt in Namibia in July of 2027. What do I need to do? And they'll get you started. And they will stay abreast of any changes that the governments throw at you, like another visa requirement, or now you need this kind of a shot. Generally, you don't need many inoculations for anything over there. Betsy and I have been stuck for all sorts of things over the years, but gosh, anymore it seems like about all you need to do, make sure you're up to date on your tetanus. Yellow fever is usually not an issue.
You can go to the government where you're traveling, and they'll tell you what vaccinations you need. They will also tell you what vaccinations to certain countries that you must have.
To get in. Oh, that's right. There are some. But those are generally not the southern African countries where we hunt. Maybe Zambia and Mozambique are getting tropical enough that you might have a few more things flying around. I think we got hit for...
Check it out.
Yeah, check it out.
Well, and I don't want you giving immunizations recommendations.
You don't want me giving immunization recommendations? Look at, she doesn't trust me, guys.
I don't.
I'm a doctor. No, I'm not. I play one on... No, I don't. She's right. You need to see a real doctor. Hey, now, we've done really well with the county. County health departments will have this information from the government, and they'll say, yeah, according to the papers, if you're going to northern Mozambique, you do need to have a yellow fever inoculation or something like that. But
those are hidden costs.
Those are hidden costs, yeah. So that's the kind of stuff you want to look for. That's what I will cover thoroughly in my blog if I ever get time to write one, and I'm sure I will eventually. But yeah, there are hidden costs. So Betsy, what these hidden costs? Betsy is my chief financial officer here. She handles the money, guys. Can you imagine that? And she's keeping track of this, which actually I kind of like, because then I can worry myself about which cartridge and bullet and what I'm taking over there, and she worries about who's paying for it and how much.
Going to Africa is like remodeling your house.
Not that bad.
There are always hidden costs.
Would you say that it ends up doubling the
No.
safari cost?
No,
Would
not
it-
at all.
does it
Well, it
add-
depends on if you ship trophies back.
There's a big expense, yes. And he does ask that. I see he's asking about that. Shipping trophies back can be really expensive. That you want to talk in depth with your outfitter about. Because the outfitter charges you usually there's a included dip and pack or something, or boiling the heads out or something like that. They have to then transfer it to essentially an in-country taxidermist who does the final preparation of the hides and getting the bugs and things off of them. And there's a period in which they have to hold those to make sure there's no diseased insects on it or whatever it is, and then they get some kind of a government fee for that work as well as their work, and then they take it to a shipper, and then he's going to want some money to put it on a boat or an airplane to get it over here to your taxidermist. And Steve has questions about, do I ship it to me or do I have to go to some U.S. government thing? It comes into a port and the government has it in, they hold it for a while. And sometimes, I think they almost always look at least the paperwork, but sometimes they'll open it and see if there's some contraband in there, like you accidentally shot an endangered species and put it in there, or somebody else did. All that stuff has to get checked out. There's some more fees there, a few hundred here, a few hundred there. Next thing you know, you're talking real coffee money. So yeah, check all that stuff out. Once again, Gracie Travel is a great place to start. There are very few things that they don't know. But your taxidermist should also have pretty good information on this. The combination of your outfitter and your taxidermist should make it fairly seamless. In other words, the PH gets it all done on his end, and they push it forward until the shipper is ready to say, "Hey, you send me $1,000 and I'll get this thing flying to you."
$1,000.
Well, maybe I'm thinking back 20 years. Maybe $4,000. It's about $4,000 to bring a big box full of heads and hides back, I think.
Well, I don't know the cost, but there are hidden costs, and you need to plan for it. There's also tipping your guide.
Tipping your guides and the staff and all that stuff. And yeah, there's a lot to it, Steve, and you're wise to be looking ahead a couple of years and getting your piggy bank flush to cover all of this stuff. And always have a little bit more money on hand just in case. But in general, I would say we're going to add about a quarter to maybe 50% more money than the actual cost of the hunt. You think that sounds right?
I don't know, but there's one other cost that is really essential, and that is to have the ability to fly you home if you get injured. You need travel medical insurance.
Yeah, that's a big one. The insurance. Some of us will say, I would. I don't need that. Wait a minute. You have to think about what happens if you're completely debilitated. You cannot walk onto an airplane to fly home. You're either so sick or broken down you can't do it. And I know people who have been in that situation. They end up in a hospital for 2-3 weeks in Africa. How are you going to get home kind of a thing? Who wants to spend 2 or 3 weeks in a small hospital in Africa when you could come home? So one of the options is a good insurance that covers that sort of thing and flies you home horizontally if need be.
So we use Global Rescue. There's also another company that I've been using, Faye. You'll have to check that out. We have no interest in what you do, but you need medical.
Yeah, there's several companies like that offering these services. Read the fine print, because a lot of them will say, we're going to rescue you, and if there's a terrorist attack or something, we'll come rescue you. What?
No, that requires more money.
Yeah, that requires more money. There's levels of insurance. They probably can rescue you from almost anything, but it might require SEAL 6. Okay. So, yeah, Steve, thanks for that. I mean, a lot of people are interested in it. It's kind of boring if you're not, but anyone who's going to Africa needs that information. And I think just what I told you there is a great place to start. I'll work on that blog, see if we can't get things going for you. Now we're going to find out if we can, we've accessed the questions that Betsy has pulled together for us. Where did these come from, honey? Is this kind of a hodgepodge, or is that off the website?
That is off a website, our comment section. we're backed up. We're only into April. We try to answer as many as we can.
All right, this is from someone in Oklahoma named JD. He says, my name is JD. I am currently 20 years old and a student at Oklahoma State University Institute of Technology. I'm going for a diesel mechanic degree specializing in Komatsu equipment, and I have to take some other classes with it. I'm currently in my second semester. Boy, I'm not sure where this is going. Maybe he's going to become a gunsmith. I'm in the second semester, and I'm taking freshman composition. I just got through writing a classification essay over hunting rifles. I would like to see what you think of this essay. I have been listening to you for years now, and I like you. I've done a deep love for classic rifles and cartridges of yesteryear. I hope you find the essay appealing. I'd love to hear your feedback as an old English teacher. Emphasis on old. JD. Well, I'm not going to read this whole essay. Let's just take a quick run at it, and I'll kind of tell you the way editors look at these things, because this is how I got started. I wrote 5 pieces and sent them off to my 5 favorite magazines back in 1975 and sold all 5 of them. First crack out of the barrel. That's the beautiful thing about outdoor writing in this country, is that you don't have to have credentials. You don't have to have a degree from a prestigious university. All you have to do is be a good writer and get your words in front of the guy who might buy it. And bingo, you're in. You know, you've just sold a product. It's like going door to door saying, would you like to buy this knife? It's very sharp and it'll stay that way. Next thing you know, you've sold it. So let's just do what an editor would do. Read the first sentence or two and see if it's going to impress me enough to keep reading. Firearms have changed over the decades, but classic rifles like bolt actions, lever actions, and single-shot rifles will always hold a special place in hunting and sports shooting culture. Now, as an editor, I would say, almost got me there. A little too wordy. You went on a little bit too long. You need to come up with a hook that's going to make them go, wow, what else is going to happen? So you could say, firearms have changed over the decades, but now they're worse than ever. What? Or maybe you could say, but today's are better than ever, or something that's going to make that hook connect with the editor. Then jump to your next paragraph. Your paragraph starts off too long. Now, your grammar looks really good. Your punctuation is proper. I'm giving you an A on all of the things I'm seeing. Just that's kind of a how-to tip for getting in the door. Now let's keep reading. Each type has distinct advantages and disadvantages, and each caters to different needs and personal preferences among hunters and marksmen. Again, a little bit too long. Start off with short, pithy sentences, getting right to the point, especially initially. You can start getting a little more detailed sentences deeper into the piece, but you're hitting a little bit too hard here at first. Bolt actions are known for their accuracy and reliability, making them ideal for hunters and long-range shooters. Lever actions are... See, I would have just shortened that to bolt actions are known for their accuracy and reliability. You don't have to tie it into who's using it. That kind of thing. I'm reading some more. Lever actions, single shots, bolt actions, blah, blah, blah. I got to tell you, JD, I think you could be a darn good writer. This is looking better than a lot of professional outdoor writers' materials that I've seen come in raw and needing a lot of editing. It just seems to be the most consistent thing with you is a little bit too long on your sentences, a little bit redundant. So just read it or write it with an eye toward that, shortening it up, making it a little more pithy, getting right to the point. But boy, I like what I'm seeing on your syntax and your grammar. Wow, it's really good, man. I encourage you to keep it up. Now, guys, I got asked this just recently by some of the guides we were with. We were with Bushwhack Alaska Adventures, and these young guides were not only interested in hunting and fishing and heck of good guides, but a couple of them were interested in outdoor communications. One of them, Jonah, was a videographer. He was really wanting to get into that line of work. And a couple of others asked me about writing and how they maybe could get into that. So it seems like there still are some writers out there. I was encouraged to discover this because my impression has been that young people don't read anymore, or if they do read, it's very short sentences that say, watch this video, and then they watch the video. But I think there's a kind of a rebirth in literature. in writing and wanting to communicate. And I think it goes hand in hand with a renewed appreciation for essentially what JD was talking about here, which is traditional rifles, traditional uses of them. I think as our opportunities to get a field and hunt become fewer because of the decrease in wildlife populations and the increase in human populations and less land to hunt on and all that, we spend more time with our equipment and our history and the traditions of hunting. So we appreciate our rifles a little more. We want to have everything perfect. And some of that is studying and reading good literature on the hunt to appreciate that deep, heartfelt thing we feel almost instinctively sometimes when we're out there or when we read a good piece that captures what we've felt all along but couldn't articulate. And I think young people are starting to miss that, and they're probably going to step up and fill the void. So more power to you. All right, Paul from Texas. What is the brand of the triple barrel side-by-side 410 shotgun you showed in one of your videos, and where can I buy one? Oh, golly, that one caught me by surprise. Who was that? It was a German maker. Honey, can you remember his name? He had those incredible side-by-side shotguns.
We have a short on that. So you'll have to go back and look at all our shorts.
I'm sorry. That's the trouble with some of these questions. Catch me off guards, and I forget names. Hauptmann, Hauptmann, maybe another N. Hauptmann, but his first name, Gert. I think it was Gert Hauptmann. Hey, the old hard drive has still got it. Yeah, Gert Hauptmann built that. He is one impressive gun maker. Whoa. And the prices he gets for his gun are equally impressive, but they are top line. Yeah, a triple barrel side-by-side 410 was really quite remarkable. You want to maybe look for that video. I don't remember what it was called. It was a short. Wow, good one. Okay, Paul, good luck with that. I expect you're going to buy one. Let me know if you do. I want to come down and hunt with it. Now, from Philly in California, he says hi to Ron, Betsy, and Covey. Covey's sleeping. Huge fan of your content and wisdom. I recently purchased a Winchester Model 70 in 30-06. Oh, there's a classic. I plan on hand loading, and I will be investing in reloading equipment little by little instead of purchasing another rifle in a different caliber. That's a nice option. I'll be a one-rifle hunter for the time being, at least. I'm in California, and we cannot hunt with lead, so I'll be loading copper monolithics. I've been looking at Hammer and Barnes, and they come in 30 caliber ranging from 100 up to 212 grains. So my question to you, what grain bullets should I be looking at for hunting different types of game? Mostly I will be hunting rodents, coyotes, mule deer, hogs, and elk. But my rifle purchase did come with an African safari hunt that I can redeem within the next 3 years, and I'll definitely be loading for that. Whoa! Thanks for your time and keep up the great work, Feely. Feely, this is exciting. I have never bought a rifle that came with an African safari attached. I could see buying an African safari that threw the rifle in, but this is cool either way you do it. Wow. Well, you've got, you're hunting a lot of different stuff here, and you've got the right cartridge to do it. Many people say this is the most versatile, bestest cartridge in the world. Well, it's not, but it does provide that sort of versatility because of the bullets you can shoot. 100 grain plinkers up to 230-ish size grain monster bullets for close range, heavy game, deep penetration, and all that stuff. But I think the 30-06 shines with a 165 grain copper bullet. 150s are pretty good, but the 165s, it can easily handle those, and you're getting a little higher BC out of it. You've got enough mass in that bullet that it's going to penetrate as well as the best 180 grain lead core bullets, maybe even a little bit better. And the 180 grain is kind of what the 30-06 made its reputation on for the bigger stuff. Yes, a few guys will use that 220 round nose or a 200 grain of some kind. There's a 190 grain long range bullet, AccuBond long range from Nosler. Winchester loads that in factory loads. That's a great long range big game bullet. But if you're loading your own, golly, and you want to stick with copper, which I love, by the way, and you listed a couple of great ones there. There are many more now. Last thing I counted 14 different manufacturers of different copper bullets, most of them designed for big game hunting, et cetera, et cetera. So now getting your lightweight bullets for rodents, boy, I really haven't paid that much attention to copper bullets in the lighter weights in the 30 calibers, but 130s are certainly out there, and you can get those screaming pretty well for your coyotes and stuff. There may be even a few slightly lighter than that, but good place to start right there. But again, that 165 for your mule deer, hogs, and elk, boy, that's going to do it. And I wouldn't hesitate to use those on moose and the bigger bears. If you want, you can slide it up, like I mentioned, that 190, but that's a lead core. So you look around, I think you'll find some 180 to maybe 200 grain 30 caliber bullets that will stabilize. You got to remember your twist rate. The bullets in copper get longer and longer and longer as the weight goes up, and there's the stability issue. The longer the bullet, the faster the twist to stabilize it. So you should see on the bullet's box or their advertisement that this bullet requires a 1 in 9 twist minimum or 1 in 10 or something. So do double check that. You're probably looking at a 1 in 10 twist in that Model 70. But I'm thinking you'll probably stabilize a 200 grain bullet. It's all copper. But the 180s will probably do the job for you. Good luck with you there, Feely, and enjoy that African safari. Whew. Oh, by the way, the same bullet's going to work just great over there. Bessie and I have used those and taken, oh gosh, honey, what's some of the biggest animals we've taken with that? Copper bullets, Africa, eland. That's the biggest antelope in the world.
You're talking about 30-06?
Huh?
Are you talking
30,
about?
Yeah, 30-06. I think on your eland you used, gosh, did you use an all copper bullet? I thought you did.
I did use a copper, and it was a 708, wasn't it? It was a Kimber. No?
No, you're thinking of your kudu and your oryx and your blue wildebeest. With the eland, you used the 30-06 with 180 grain. I think it was the TTSX. At any rate, we've just taken all kinds of game over there with that, from small to big. So you'll be able to do it. Neil in East Texas. He's not just from Texas. He's from East Texas. Ron, I really enjoy your show and all the information you shared. Well, thank you. Appreciate that, Neil. My question is, I am thinking about getting a semi-custom rifle in either a 253,000 or a 257 Roberts. I like both cartridges, and I've shot both in years past. At 73 years old, well, the Magnums hurt more than they used to. So which one of these two would you recommend? Oh, golly. Neil, I'd get them both. I've kind of got a nostalgic spot for that 250 Savage. It's not quite as fast as the 257 Roberts, but it's got so much more historical context, being the first to go over 3,000 feet per second. That was the big selling point of that initially, and it's remarkably efficient because it's such a relatively small powder capacity on that thing. It's pretty much going to do the same stuff the 257 Roberts does, but the Roberts will give you a little more reach, but I'm not sure you need a whole bunch of flat shooting reach, or you wouldn't be looking at either one of these. Either one will do just fine for you. The 257 Roberts, if I were looking at that one, I think I would look at doing an Ackley improved version of it. Same chamber, basically. You just straighten the walls out a little bit and getting that 40-degree shoulder on it. So you're going to get a little more horsepower out of it. It'll make reloading a lot easier for you, I think. But if you're looking for tradition and nostalgia and all the rest of it, stick with your standard 257 Roberts. I don't think there's a deer out there that's going to complain. You'll do quite well. Yeah, it's always a difficult thing when you ask somebody else, what would you get? Well, that doesn't mean it's what you want. What I want and you want may be two different things. Corbin in Kentucky. Dearest Ron. Oh, this guy must really like us, Betsy. I'm Dearest. I don't mind
Look how he
being
spelled dearest.
Oh, he spelled it as the white-tailed deer version of Dearest. Clever. Or should I say Dearest? Yeah, okay. Got it. That was cute. Well done, Corbin. You got me. I have a question about a potential rifle build and retrofit. Let me first proclaim the usual but well-deserved flatteries by saying that your podcasts and YouTube episodes have been on fire lately. Wow, you're going to get all kinds of good advice from me, Corbin. Try as I might, I can't find any other hunting or ballistics related content, except for Von Benedict's, that even comes close to the quality of information you relay. Well, thanks so much for that, Corbin. I will continue to try. Even though I have been a gunsmith for almost 15 years, listening to you and Joseph and the other guests you bring on remind me that there is no peak to knowledge, and I have very far to go before I can call myself an expert. Now, you may be a little too humble here, sir. You are the gunsmith, after all. So that's why I'm coming to an actual expert with this question. I have a previously sporterized model 1917 Eddystone in 30-06 that I was using as a practice project due to the excessive headspace that made it unshootable. I unashamedly say that I have ruined the current barrel, and I have an opportunity to replace it with a laundry list of long-action chamberings. If you were in charge and this were your rifle, what cartridge would you choose and why? By the way, Corbin, your syntax and language and punctuation and everything here is perfect. As a caveat, I am in central Kentucky, so any shot I take at an animal will rarely exceed 100 yards, and I'm sort of kind of into precision. But I understand and accept that hunting accuracy is fairly forgiving. So thank you. Many blessings to you, Covey, and Betsy, and the rest of your family. Well, thanks so much, Corbin. Now, I'm so, my head is spinning with all this flattery, I forgot the question. You ruined the barrel. What cartridge would I choose and why? Oh, boy. Yeah, for that. Phew. Well, you're going to handle the long actions, and that always raises the 30-06 right back to where you started. But if you're saying you really don't need to shoot that far, that means you don't need it. But I'd always rather have more speed and horsepower than I need if I can handle the recoil. So why not? Someday you might decide you need to look at an elk over that barrel or a moose. So the 30-06, I think, remains right in the running. I can't see a huge advantage to a short action because you've already got the long action. Otherwise, I'd say 308's a good, little bit slower cartridge you could look at. So in the 30-06 length family, gosh, you could go pretty much anywhere. Not any of it is needed for Kentucky. 280 Remington, that's the one you don't see all that often. You're going to have a little harder time finding ammo for it, so you're going to want to reload. You can then step up to the 280 Ackley improved version of it. You can go with, 270, 338-06, something different. You get a little less reach and a little less flat trajectory with that one, but a little more oomph if you want to use a heavier bullet. Maybe get a little increased killing potential on that one. I don't think it's a big deal, but that's kind of a fun one. I don't know what to tell you, partner. And a lot of it depends on what you already have and want or need. But it's just hard to say, well, what should you get besides a 30-06 in a 30-06 length action rifle that's already set up for one? Gosh, I don't know. Anyone else out there want to jump in on this one? What would you recommend that Corbin put in that barrel? What should he chamber it for? I think, being me, I'd lean to that 280 Ackley improved, and I think Joseph would as well because he loves it. But it's not going to be that much cooler than anything else, especially in your Kentucky hunting at 100 yards. Good Lord, you could just use the 30-30, but I don't recommend you chamber it in a 30-30. Hey, let us know what you do with that, Corbin, and how well it shoots. It'd be fun to find out. Now, let's move on to Alaska, where we hear from Harold. Hello, Ron. With the introduction of the 7mm Mac Country, do you think Federal will take the same concept and make a 30-06 loaded to 80,000 PSI, or possibly a 25-06, as I understand that one is just the case is what allows a higher PSI, right? Yeah, that's exactly it. It's that steel case, that special peak steel, I think they called it, that allows those kinds of pressures. Apparently, rifles, modern bolt-action rifles, can withstand the pressure, and the barrels can withstand the pressure, so it's just that case. And the old copper cases can't necessarily. There have been, I think most of us understand that, for safety reasons, these things are built to withstand twice what the standards are. So if they say your 30-06 is 62,000 PSIs of chamber pressure, they will push that up closer to 100 100,000, 120,000 in when they're testing their barrels and actions to make sure they're tough enough. They want to have a lot of fudge factor built in there. So they're really pushing that up. Doesn't mean you want to shoot in it regularly because there's going to be more wear and tear and things could break a lot more soon. So you want to watch for that. But the upshot is if they put that steel case in, bingo. So yeah, they could do it with a 30-06 or a 270 or anything else out there. Whether or not they will is the big question, because do you really want somebody having a 30-06 with a steel case, 80,000 psi, and they stick it in some old auto-loading rifle that goes kaplooey because of it? Probably not, but it all remains to be seen. But the technology is certainly there to do it. Now, down in Australia, we hear from Howard. Good day. Ron really enjoyed your comparison between the 30-06 and the 303 battle rifles. Now, that was a fun one. Joseph and I compared those and had a little bit of a contest to see who could shoot one the most accurately and or the fastest. I think it was he beat me on the accuracy, and I might have been a little bit faster if I hadn't missed the bolt on one and got a little bit ahead of myself there. Okay, yeah, Howard says that I have used the 30-06 and the 303 extensively, and he used them on culling programs for pigs and goats. And he says, Joseph and my observations were correct. The SMLE with the 10-shot magazine is advantageous for follow-up shots and for culling big mobs quickly. The 303 rifle that you had was an MK4, which was a World War II rifle, not used in the First World War. Those were made by the Canadians, British, and by Savage and Remington in America under Lend-Lease program. The MK3 SMLE, the Smiley, as used by Aussie diggers in 2 World Wars and Korea, is a slightly different configuration. Your idea that there were no conversions of the 303 is incorrect. In Australia, our gunsmiths made thousands of rifles in the 50s, and they chambered them 303-25, 303-270, 303-243, and 303-22 because sporting rifles were not coming in after the Second World War, and there were so many surplus SMLE rifles around. Now, that makes sense. I noticed that you and your mate in rapid fire palmed the boat, which is a big error trained out of us in the Army Cadets. Thumb and forefinger only on the bolt handle. Palm was not allowed because of the nerve center at the base of the thumb. Hit hard, the hand is paralyzed, leading to a soldier unable to work his bolt. This killed a lot of blokes before the Army drilled it out of you. Sorry to go on, mate, but one thing not covered in your interesting shows is barrel life. How many shots do you get out of a barrel, given good cleaning and maintenance? Well, I have shot out a number of rifles in various calibers in my time as a roo shooter and an animal color. The 243 did about 8,000 rounds, the 6mm Remington about 5,500, 22 Remington well over 10,000, and in one rifle, but not so many in a CZ, I had a 22-50 that was the worst, only about 4,000 rounds, and it was done. I used a 303 and a 30-06 and a 270, but changed rifles after a couple of thousands in each so that they were not shot out. Love to know your opinion on barrel life on various rifles. My best regards to you and your work in hunting ethics, Maka. So, Howard, nicknamed Maka, that's good information. Glad to hear all that. And yeah, now that you mentioned it, I did know that they were wildcatting the 303 British to different calibers like the 25 and the 270 and such. So sorry about that. A lot of times when we're putting these videos together, we just take it off the top of our heads and roll with it and forget a lot of stuff that we should know. But as for your question on barrel life, I think you've pretty much answered it, and it always comes down to the combination of how much powder you're burning and how narrow of a bore. The ratio between those two pretty much determines how quickly that barrel's going to burn out. So another way to look at it is the faster it goes, the faster it's going to burn out, because speed comes from high pressure and a lot of powder burning down a narrow bore to push a lightweight bullet really, really fast. So your 22-250, yes, that's pushing a lot more powder than a 222 Remington. Both can be shooting the same weight bullets, but because there's more powder pushing that in a 22-250, your barrel burns out 3 times faster, roughly. So that's the way you look at all of this stuff. Then the other thing you add in is frequency of shots. How quickly do you shoot so the barrel gets hotter and hotter and hotter? You shoot once at a deer or a roo, and then you don't shoot for another hour. You got a cool barrel, so it's not as hot. It's not going to wear out as quickly. You're going to get more rounds out. The other thing I will mention is burned out or shot out barrel. A lot of people have a misperception about what that exactly is. A lot of them think it's you've chewed up the rifling and it's now a smooth bore. That's not what's going on, guys. You're breaking up the rifling right at the throat, the lead, where it ramps up and into the rifling so that your bullet's riding on the lands. There's a little gap right in there, and that's where your flame temperature is the highest, and it comes jetting out of there at high velocity, so it's kind of like sandblasting. In fact, a lot of the powders with their sharp edges, the stick powders we call them, extruded powders, have sharp edges on those, and the powder at the top of the column of the cartridge are not necessarily burning when they first get pushed out. The burning at the back by the primer pushes everything forward, so you're pushing the weight of the powder as well as the bullet, and then that raw powder is burning in the barrel. So you're getting some cutting action from that in addition to the heat, and then you get the shrinkage and the heating and the shrink, and everybody knows what happens when you heat and shrink. You get work hardening and things to break up, and you destroy essentially the first half inch to an inch or so of the rifling, and that tears up your bullet, and that affects your accuracy. So the rifle still works. It's fairly accurate. One man's inaccurate rifle might be another man's deer hunting rifle with good accuracy. You've got to define what is accurate for you and your particular use, and that helps you determine how long that barrel life is. Good question there, Mecca. Now in Arizona, we hear from Chris. I've heard it said that 90% of American game is taken at 200 yards or less. My Arizona unit being very game rich, well, most shots are 25 to 100 yards. So why do you seemingly push longer range cartridges? Even the Asian 30-30 and the 35 Remington 44 Magnum will do that with the newer cartridge types. I also have a 6mm Creedmoor, a 6.5 Creedmoor, and a 708 Remington, but should I need more reach than 200 yards at my elevation, 9,000 foot elevation, I'll use those. Okay, well, Chris, the reason we cover, I don't know that we push long-range cartridges, because I and Joseph and Tate would pretty much say 600 yards is kind of the limit we set. We don't think you should be shooting at game farther than that, and I honestly think you should rarely be engaging game beyond 400 yards for a couple of reasons. One, of course, is you just can't predict what the wind's doing out there. And you can't predict what the animal's going to do when your brain says pull the trigger. The lag time between that and the bullet actually getting there is more than enough time for the animal to duck, turn, take a step, and there's your blown shot, a wounding shot. And that's a lot harder to follow up, find the game when he's that far out, that sort of thing. And the other one is the excitement of the shot and all the rest of it. We think we're great while we're sitting on a bench or prone with a good bipod under controlled conditions. Translate that into the field, and suddenly you're all excited and you're shaking and you're hyperventilating and you got a lousy shooting position and the wind is doing crazy things and your buddy's saying, hurry up, he's getting away. And the next thing you know, you screwed up. But everyone is interested in the new cartridges, the new rifles, the new bullets, the new scopes, all the things that are designed for long range. And we like to cover that because of the fun of long range target shooting. We love shooting steel plates, challenging ourselves to make these shots. So a difference between advocating for long range shooting and long range hunting. I actually think it's a misnomer. Long-range hunting I do all the time. I'm sometimes glassing stuff 3-4 miles away, hunting for the game that I'm then going to stalk and shoot inside of 300 yards and 100 if I can get there. It's like my bear I shot recently in Alaska, big grizzly bear. I could have engaged him walking broadside right out in the open at 500 yards from a steady position up on the hill above him. Instead, we stalked within 189 yards and took him. It was a lot more exciting. Okay, Roger in Australia. What we're hearing from Australia in this episode. He says, I have a podcast name suggestion for you. The RSO-BI Betsy Improved Edition. That is in response to a question we threw out a while back about Betsy saying, we've got to answer more questions that appear on Ron Spomer Outdoors website, where we have a comment and question section, and we can't keep up with the darn thing. Everybody's asking all these questions, and we're so busy with our patrons and answering their questions, and then putting out more YouTubes on 2 different channels and all this kind of stuff. So Betsy's been, well, that's probably where this came from. She pulls all these things up and says, do a podcast on this. You got to do 2 a week now. So I said, okay, we're going to have a new podcast. Is it going to be the standard Ron Spomer Outdoors podcast, or should we give it a new name? And he's suggesting the RSO-BI Betsy Improved Gun podcast.
I love it.
No, it's okay. We might consider that, but I'm thinking because of the traction we've already built up with Ron Spomer Outdoors podcast, note the 100,000 award. We have 100,000 plus subscribers on that one. It's kind of slow to get started with another channel, and most people would see RSO-BI and go, what's that? So I think we're going to stick with Ron Spomer Outdoors, but 1 per week will be the Betsy Improved edition, which is what we're doing right now. Betsy, say hello to everyone.
Hello.
Did you enjoy your fishing trip with the Bushwhack Alaska Adventures?
I loved it.
What did you catch?
I caught a pike, a bunch of pike. Really.
Bunch of pike, yeah, and bigger pike than Grandpa Ron caught.
Of course. But I was under a handicap from shoulder surgery.
Yeah, she was having a tough time, man. Fighting those fish, and her shoulder started aching. She thought, I'd better knock it off because this shoulder isn't really fully healed yet. So she had to kind of calm it down a little bit. But every day she'd say, well, maybe 1 or 2 casts. The next thing you know, she was fighting another 30-inch pike. But what about those grayling? Didn't you like those?
I love the grayling. What I liked the most is being out in unbelievable wilderness.
Yeah, it's pretty out there, isn't it?
That's gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah, being on a river in Alaska with a lot of fish in front of you, it's the next best thing to hunting.
It's actually better.
Well, I don't know about that, but when I'm done hunting, I will fish. Okay, so at any rate, let's see what Roger has to say after the Betsy Improved version. He says, I have spent the last year catching up on your podcast backlog, so it's a wealth of knowledge and humble opinion, so thanks for all you do, Ron and Betsy. Now, I have recently added a Browning lever rifle 308 Winchester to my collection to complement my X-Bolt 223 Remington and a Lithgow 22 long rifle. We pronounce it Lithgow. Okay, Lithgow. It's Lithgow. I have heard of these. I think they're Australian-made firearms. The latter was purchased from my father before he passed away at a grand and happy old age. My BLR was a 9-month wait for the shipment to arrive in the country and another 3 weeks for paperwork to clear. Welcome to the wonderful world of no Second Amendment. Hopefully, I'll enjoy it for 30 or so years before passing it down to a worthy grandchild or grandniece or grandnephew. Keep up the great work, Roger, Australia. Well, thank you, Roger. And yeah, that's a good little arsenal you've got there. I don't think the 3 rifles are an arsenal, but in Australia it probably is. The 308, of course, is the kind of do-it-all Goldilocks cartridge that everybody raves about because it, like the 30-06, can pretty much do anything and everything. But when you're hunting the smaller things, a 223 Remington for foxes and whatever other varmints you guys have there is much more efficient. And then the 22 long rifle, that's kind of like the starter rifle plus mandatory must-have rifle. Really, it's the last one I would let go. It just does too much. And it's so simple to shoot and quiet and easy to handle and effective. And you can take small game and birds if you have to, and rodents and predators, and plenty of poachers have taken big game with it. It's just the right shot in the right place. But nice to have a collection. Okay, let's find out what Neil in Texas has to say. Ron, I'm fairly new to your podcast, but I like all your comments and information on various cartridges. I am watching a YouTube now, your YouTube, Season 2, Episode 63. Whoa, I bet I didn't have white hair back in those days. Maybe even had some hair. My question is covering what to do about a varmint caliber cartridge for my next gun. I shoot all Weatherby Vanguards in 300 Win Mag, 257 Weatherby Magnum, 308 Winchester, and 243 Winchester. What would you recommend for a varmint rifle? Well, that 243 Winchester really sticks out as just an excellent one. A lot of guys love that. But it's a little bit heavy for guys who like to shoot a lot, and it's a little less expensive to shoot a 22 caliber or even a 17. So depending on how far you want to reach with your varminting, you're going to be looking at something in the neighborhood of a 22 250 Remington or a 22 Creedmoor, a little bit faster, and then down to a 22 Hornet, which is fairly slow, a little old-fashioned, but got some nostalgic value. And right in between, the easy choice is the 223 Remington, even though it's just, old hat, everybody has one, blah, blah, blah. It's because they're just so darn effective. It comes pretty close to the performance of the 22 250, but burns a lot less powder. So if you want to shoot 55 grain up to, well, of course now with the fast twist barrels, they're doing the 5.56 version of it. In fact, I would recommend you get a wild, W-I-L-D-E chamber, which means it is chambered to handle the 5.56 quite efficiently and safely, and easily handles the 223 simultaneously. People make way more about that much ado about nothing, but still there are some specifications that suggest the 5.56 ammo shouldn't be shot in a 223 chamber. Plenty of people write in and say they do it all the time, but I can't recommend, because the industry doesn't recommend you do that. But if you get a 5.56 chamber, then you can shoot the 223 stuff. But you're going to be looking for a fast twist barrel in your 223. Then you've got the versatility. You can still shoot your 50 grain bullets and probably even down to your little lightweight 35 grains just fine. They might spin apart from the centrifugal force, but I kind of doubt it. I have never had it happen, but it does happen. But I think your 50 grain bullets would be great for the lighter weight stuff. And then you can jump on up if you think you need to do the 60 grains or even heavier. But generally, I think you're going to shoot 50 to 55 grain bullets in all of these. So I think I'm going to go with the 223, much as I prefer the 22 250. But then I'm mostly looking at reaching out there for coyotes. That was my big thing back in the 80s and 90s especially. But these days I would go with the 22 Creedmoor for that one. And I'd still have a 223 for the smaller stuff. Good luck on in choice there, Neil. Whichever one, I think you're going to enjoy them. They're great. I love those 222s and family. Now, Texas has Albert asking us about an ammo box. Oh, I'd seen a wooden custom ammo box on one of your shows some time back. Can you give me information on how I can purchase one, who to contact, the individual that produces them? Golly, I can grab one real quick, guys. Hang in there. I got one quickly right here. Guys, this is what he's talking about. If you're listening to the podcast, you won't see this gorgeous, gorgeous piece of walnut. This is exhibition grade walnut from a rifle stock. It's a leftover. This gentleman had a buddy who was making rifle stocks, and he says, "What are you doing with all those chunks of wood?" "Nothing." "Well, you're doing something now." He gets them and makes these incredibly beautiful and impressively well-constructed ammo boxes in various sizes. This is a little pocket version for a Magnum. 4 of them in here. If you want to be the classiest hunter in the woods, you get one of these and put it in your pocket. Woo-hoo, hold your extra rounds. But he makes them for shooting on the range. You can get 100 of them in a box, various sizes, gorgeous things. OpenRangeCreations.com. The gentleman is in he's outside of Cheyenne, Wyoming somewhere. And he's just a top class workmanship in wood. As you can see here, it has 3 different kinds on here, and the lid is magnetically attached and strong. I filled these things up and shaken them up and down, and it stays put. So if you're looking to do that, go to OpenRangeCreations.com. The gentleman's name is John Bomarino, and great guy, and stands behind his products, and he'll talk to you and say, "What do you want?" Custom job all the way, Tell him how many, what sizes, and all this good stuff. You can even send him a dummy round so he can make it just perfect for that size. So that's who you contact. And if you have any trouble reaching him, or I gave you bad information on that address, just reach out again, and I will personally put you in touch with him. Okay, that was Albert from Texas, and that looks like the last. What did we go here? 56 minutes. We're coming up pretty close to an hour anyway, so I think we're going to have to probably sign off. Anything else we want to talk about, Betsy?
You can talk about our Patreon Hangouts.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah. And we're giving a knife away on our next one. I don't know when you guys are going to be hearing this. Might not be in time for our next Patreon hangout. But what we do with our patrons is we offer those at the third tier of membership and above to join us for a one-on-one, what would you call it, Betsy? A Zoom meeting? Google Meet kind of a
Yes, a
thing?
Google Meet.
Yeah, everybody's on their computers or their phones so we can see each other, and they ask questions. I do a little pontificating about a subject to get things started, and then someone will say, yeah, but what about this? Or, yeah, well, that's not what happened when I shot my polar bear. That kind of stuff. And it's just like having a bunch of buddies around a campfire. We share our stories. We ask questions about different cartridges and rifles and how effectively they worked or didn't work. And it's just a lot of fun. And to make it even more fun, we spin a wheel and we give away some prizes. And usually it's a knife. Sometimes it's a Midwest Gunworks toolkit for repairing things. It's usually one of my books or more, and everybody just really seems to enjoy these. Since we started this, we've gotten many more members on Patreon at the Tier 3 level. So if you'd like to join us, go to patreon.com and type in Ron Spomer Outdoors, and then it'll give you all the directions on how to join up and become a member. Yeah, it's a monthly fee to be part of the club, but you get your questions answered immediately, and you get a few other things like these videos early. The podcasts and our videos come to you sooner than everybody else gets them, and ad-free. So far,
Plus, they get a newsletter every 2 weeks.
well, that's right. How can I forget the newsletter? I just wrote one about our grizzly bear hunt in depth. This was like a major magazine article with way more photos than you get. I think I put 21 or 22 photographs in there because people love pictures and I've got plenty of them. So they got to see where we were and the camp and the cooking and everything else. So yeah, and we'll be doing one, a detailed one on that Park West Arms SD-97 synthetic stainless weatherproof rifle that I shot my bear with as well, and the 338 Federal cartridge that I used, just so I had an opportunity to showcase that one because most people don't know it. Yeah, lots of stuff going on Patreon. Love to have you guys. Now, we've got a lot of free members on Patreon. They don't get most of these perks and stuff, but they're kind of still part of the club. Boy, if you guys would like to upgrade and become paying members, you're going to get more of those benefits. And we'd love to have you step up to that third tier level so you can join us on the Campfire Podcast adventures and stuff that we're doing. So when is the next one, Betsy? It's the 30th coming up?
June 30th, 7 Mountain Standard Time.
7 p.m. Mountain Time. On the 30th of June. So as I say, I don't know when this podcast is going to hit the streets, if it's in time. If not, just be ready for the next month. We'll do one in July. We're doing one a month right now. Maybe down the road we'll do 2 a month. I don't know.
No, we won't do 2 a
Oh,
month.
good. I like to hear that. Yeah, we're doing 2 podcasts a week, but not 2 campfire hangouts. All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me. I hope you appreciated our efforts, Betsy's especially on this one. Thanks for pulling up all these questions for us, Betsy. And keep up the good work there behind the camera. Superbly trained camera woman is this Betsy. She's got a master's degree in videography.
I do not.
Maybe it had something more to do with nursing. I'm not sure. See y'all next time. Hunt honest and shoot straight.